My name is David Robinson, Director of Automation. And I'm going to divide this session up into two distinct sessions. We're going to first do some of the key features of SolarTrac4 and what differentiates it from our previous version of SolarTrac, which I sincerely hope most of you are aware of. And then we're actually going to do a live demonstration of the new look and feel of SolarTrac4, which I'm sure those of you that have had experience in SolarTrac are going to see it's very different to what we had in the past. So without too much further ado, I'm going to kick off. In terms of let me just get this working correctly. We just want to cover some of the basics with regards to what have we got in terms of the strategic side of SolarTrac4 in terms of how are we differentiating it from our previous version of SolarTrac. We believe that SolarTrac4, as you'll see, is by far one of the best in breed automation systems out there, and it has got a significantly reduced impact to the overall building cost than what people typically envisage. It's also got a lot of patented technology, as I'm sure those that know automation systems are familiar with. One of the key features that we are now bringing on board is the ability to use internet weather. And this is particularly prevalent in instances where access to the roof to actually locate radiometers is difficult, or if there's an instance where you may well have a multi-tenanted building and you've got somebody down on the 5th floor that requires SolarTrac of a 30-story tower. You now have the ability to actually manage that. We also still heavily rely on our ability to use the predictiveness and the reactiveness of our system. In terms of predictive, we continue to model the space prior to actually implementation of a SolarTrac system, and we can actually give a lot of information to other systems within the building via BACnet. And then we also use the reactive side of our algorithms, whereby it either gathers information from the radiometers or from internet weather, and it actually responds to local conditions in real time, so that ultimately you have a system which is firstly thinking what the system is, how it needs to operate, but then also reacting in real time to those exact conditions as and when they actually occur. With regards to the ability to utilize internet weather, it gives us a concept which we call key in the door, whereby you can actually go ahead and actually make a building automation ready per se. So we can install the backbone infrastructure, and then we have the ability to actually turn on clients as they move into a building. And this is all facilitated through some of the enhanced features of SolarTrac4 that I'm actually going to demonstrate. So some of the features and benefits, and for those that are familiar with SolarTrac, some of these are our features of our current system, and some of them have been enhanced to ultimately beef up the ability of SolarTrac4 to appeal to a larger audience. One of our key differentiators from everybody else is that we do full spectrum solar evaluation through our radiometers, compared to the majority of our competitors that merely look at the visible portion of the spectrum. So they're only looking at visible light. We look at full spectrum, so we include infrared and ultraviolet as well as visible light. It also gives you the ability to enhance and expand your number of strategies, whereby you can actually have bolt-on modules which can be activated at a later stage, insofar as you can well have 3D modeling for the ability to look at shadowing and reflection. We also have the ability to incorporate electrochromic glazing under our control. We also have the ability to control Venetian blinds, both interior blinds as well as exterior blinds. So we've got a fairly broad palette of strategies which we can deploy, all from a single automation system. As I said, we use proactive and reactive algorithms, whereby we can actually look at what a building should do under perfect conditions, if it was a clear sky every day, and then we react based on the information which is gathered from the radiometers and allow that system to optimally perform to ensure that the occupants of that space are kept at optimal comfort at any given time. One of the prime benefits of SolarTrac4 over and above SolarTrac3 or our previous version of SolarTrac is the dynamic floor plan, which I'm going to be demonstrating in the second half of the presentation. And you'll see this is something which is by far one of the industry leading methods of controlling not only a shading control system, but any building management system in terms of its responsiveness and the amount of information which can actually be pulled from this. As I mentioned, we've got the ability to incorporate internet weather, whereby we can actually subscribe to a service for internet weather. And with the use of local sensors, we can actually fine tune and optimize the performance of the system based on the internet weather criteria. We have expanded our platforms that can be utilized for SolarTrac insofar as you can use a desktop, you can have it in a rack-mounted server, but more and more people these days are opting for virtual servers. The reason being, a lot of clients are going down the route of not wanting additional hardware on their facility that they have to maintain, and that they have to have somebody access every time they will actually want to control the system. So virtual machines are becoming fairly commonplace and by far taking over from physical servers, which is the way in which most automation systems are actually moving. Just something to speak about with regards to costs. People always say automation is expensive, and it is something that only the few can afford. If you look at the 330-300 rule, I don't know if any of you have seen this. This is actually a calculator that is promoted by one of the large facilities companies in the US. So typically, if you look at the breakdown of costs, operating costs of a system is typically $3 per foot. If you look at the rental space, you're looking at $30 a foot, but the actual cost of the people in that space is in the region of $300 per square foot. So it goes to stand that the most important thing that you need to look after in any building is the visual comfort and the thermal comfort of the people in that space. If you want them to be productive, you need them to be comfortable at any given time to make sure that you're getting optimal productivity out of them. And how do we facilitate that? We actually facilitate that through automation so that people ultimately don't need to think about what the shade system is doing at any given time, and it's a system which is reacting in real time to what the climatic conditions dictate. So with regards to everybody else, we're going to be demonstrating this in a bit more detail, but ultimately you'll see that this is very different to everybody else's system insofar as it is a complete interactive system, which we've looked at how people typically access all building management systems. What are they used to? What are people not afraid of in terms of the ability to control a system? How do they like accessing it? What information do they need at their fingertips? And this is what we have incorporated into the new SolarTrac4 platform. So there were a lot of issues which were thrown at us initially with regards to the resistance of people wanting to deploy automation. First, one of them was people cannot get access to a roof. They struggle with roof penetrations for the location of radiometers. As I mentioned, we've now got the capability of using internet weather in conjunction with local sensors, which are utilizing our wireless battery-free daylight sensor just to calibrate the information which we are actually receiving from the internet at any given time. There was also a concern in the past with regards to the way in which our previous version of the software used to operate. It used to operate as a standard system which needed a Windows logon. So you needed somebody to physically log on to a computer with a Windows account. then you could access the SolarTrac software. We have listened to what people came to us with in terms of resistance, and we've made SolarTrac4 a system that runs as a service. So what does that mean? You don't actually physically have to log on to the computer for SolarTrac to be running. It runs in the background and it is accessed through a GUI, a graphical user interface, which I'm going to show you how we actually access. It also gives us the capability to expand SolarTrac across multiple platforms, and it gives us the ability to do multiple buildings from a single instance. So we have got, currently we are expanding a large campus down in Florida to, I think it's 7 or 8 buildings, all operating off a single instance of SolarTrac, and I'll show you how those are differentiated. It also gives us the ability to do multi-tenanted buildings where you may well install the backbone software, and you may have different tenants that require different parameters to their system. You can set them up individually, and you can give them control to their system only. They won't actually see any other automation system or any other control system in the building apart from their 3 or 4 floors that they are occupying. So it gives you quite a bit of flexibility in terms of how you can deploy SolarTrac4 versus how our previous systems were deployed. So some of our unique selling points of SolarTrac4, and I think I have covered a few of these already, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, but it is one of the few systems, in fact, I think it's the only system that does the full spectrum solar evaluation, and it is patented through the use of radiometer data when it is comparing actual conditions that are measured above the building to what ASHRAE is actually dictating for that particular location of that building. We also do 3D shadowing and reflections. So what do we mean by that? We actually do a comprehensive 3D study of all surrounding buildings, which will potentially influence our said building when shadows exist or when first order reflections exist. So we can actually proactively dictate when those shades are going to move. So if a building is in shadow, there's no need for the shades to be deployed. So we can actually tell the system that the shades do not need to be down based on a predetermined condition. We then have the ability to allow that to interact with what is being measured above the building via the radiometers, and it makes sure that everything is managed in real time. As I said earlier, we've also got the ability to do electrochromic glazing, where we can actually control electrochromic glass through SolarTrac. And this is not only limited to EC glass, we can actually do Venetian blinds as well, as we have done in some of our larger installations where we've actually controlled entire buildings of Venetian blinds through SolarTrac automation. We've also got this new dynamic floor plan, which I'm going to demonstrate now, which is, again, it's got a feel very different to what we've, for those of you that know SolarTrac, to what has been experienced in the past, and it's really something to be seen. Supporting material, a lot of you will say, well, we need a lot more information on SolarTrac, how we're actually going to show our customers what this is all about. If you look on our new website, you will see that there's extensive new marketing material that has been added. There are case studies. There's some very good details of how SolarTrac has transformed certain installations. There's a lot of technical information on SolarTrac at the moment, and this is all available via the new website. And I'm sure a lot of you have been there, but there are extensive case studies which are being added so that it makes us differentiate our ability to automate a building from everybody else. So right now, the thing I want to do now is I just want to start the live demo, and I'm just going to change screens here. So getting on to SolarTrac. It's controlled via login. I've logged in just so that it makes things a little bit easier, but all it is a username and password login, which makes it unique in terms of every single person that has access to SolarTrac. You predetermine, firstly, what they're going to be able to see and their level of access. Now, I have got comprehensive administrator access here, so there's a little bit more detail than what a normal person would see. But the first thing you're gonna feel is that this is an interactive floor plan. I'm just scrolling my mouse in and out. I just want to remove all the other stuff just in case you want to see if you're working this on a mobile platform, which this is fully mobile compatible. If it's an iPad and you've got limited real estate on your iPad, you can actually hide all the information screens and you can just look at the actual floor plan itself. So you've got the ability to open these windows individually, and if you look at it, it toggles between the floors with significant ease, and it gives you the ability to actually look in at individual motors, individual zones, or individual floors. I'm just going to briefly go through some of the new graphics which are available to you via the new user interface. And at any time, you'll see, if you are in doubt at any given time, you can actually click on an icon. It'll actually bring up a supplementary window. But if you're unsure what is going on at any time, you can click on the little question mark. It immediately takes you to the online information screen, which is the help menu, and it'll tell you exactly what you are clicking on at any given time, and it gives you a detailed explanation of each and every symbol, what it means, what it does, and its ability for you to interact with the system. So if we just look at some of our core symbols, you'll see, firstly, there is a color coding which is fairly generic across all of our different systems. Green means that the system is operating correctly. Blue, if you click on the actual symbol and you say, well, what does a light blue symbol mean? Again, we can go across to our key. It is a sensor, and it'll actually tell you, based on the color of that sensor, what is the level of illuminance which is being measured by that sensor at any given time. So if we just toggle back to our two sensors, you'll see that we have got sensors on the northwestern side of our building that are one color, and a sensor on the western side which is a different color. So if we go back to our color coding, you'll see that one of them is reading less than 3000 lux. One of them has actually crossed over the 3000 lux threshold. So it gives you the ability to see what those given levels are at any given time. So what this also gives you the ability to do is navigate SolarTrac firstly through the actual interactive graphic, as well as a conventional tree type arrangement. So you can actually, as soon as you click on a particular zone within the tree network, you'll see that it actually moves on the graphic as well. So it actually automatically moves the graphic based on what you're looking at any given time. If you want to dig deeper, you can actually go down to the motor level, and you'll see again it moves to whatever motor we have looked at. If you click on the motor, you can actually see the details of the motor at any given time. Something which you may well ask, why are there so many locations on here? SolarTrac4 gives you the ability to actually create up to 10 intermediate positions based on our current settings. So at the moment, I can go down to any of 10 positions. So I've just moved the shade in my office down to position 6. And even though it is in a cloud condition, I can actually override it and I can move it to wherever I want. So if I put it to position 4 and I say, okay, you may well hear in the background, my shade in my office is actually moving at the moment. You can go and have a look at a lot of features with regards to this, and you'll see this has changed from cloudy. It has gone to a switch override position, telling me that I've actually overridden the shade. It also gives you the ability to look at what the actual automated position of the shade would be under normal operating conditions. So this, for those of you that were familiar with the old system, We used to have the zone preview reports. This has now all been incorporated into this. And you'll actually see, if you look at the actual, I'm just looking, that's the automated mode if it was running in normal condition. Actual, I've actually got a sensor attached to my shade. So it actually tells me at 9 o'clock there was a brightness condition. It moved to position 4 and it stayed in that position until 10 o'clock when the brightness condition it wasn't prevalent anymore. It then moved all the way up, and I've just moved the shade down to position 4. It's a shade override. So this is a lot more informative than our previous version of SolarTrac, and it gives the user a lot of control in terms of what he is doing at any given time. One of the nice features that we're looking at now is it gives you the ability to actually look at all the information with regards to that motor. A lot of people used to say, well, how do you get the motor address? You can now pull that off the graphic. You don't need to go and look on the commissioning software or to run the Mecho software anymore. Everything is now available via the motor information from that particular screen. So if I look at different motors, again, it pulls up each and every motor, and you'll see it pulls all the information with regards to the motor itself. So if we go and look at, if we just go home on this, if we look at the rest of this information, it gives you quite a few features with regards to what was previously hidden. We've now got the scheduling ability to actually enter schedules directly from our graphic as well. It gives you the ability to view the active ones, to look at the active schedules for today. Gives you the ability to actually add scheduled events for any given day, which was a little bit more difficult to do in our previous version of the software. Some of the other features we can look at doing is you can actually look at the settings of a particular motor or a zone. So if we look at a zone, you can actually see all the conditions, that the maximum timer it's got set. For those of you that have used SolarTrac in the past, there would have been a requirement to enter this all in the input form right up front. You now have the ability to actually change all this information if you're set up with the appropriate permissions for SolarTrac. This is not accessible for each and every person that's going to be using SolarTrac. This would typically be your facility manager's screen that has been set up as an administrator on that installation. It gives you a lot of detail with regards to what is in essence happening under the hood of SolarTrac, but this is to empower the facilities staff and specifically the facilities manager to actually have a look at all the parameters of SolarTrac. So how is the shade working? Is it working in solar penetration, heat load? What is your maximum permissible solar penetration? He can now go and change this by himself. He doesn't need to come through us anymore if he has got the correct and appropriate permissions set up. We also have included all the details with regards to, firstly, the size of the window, and secondly, the position of all the setups. Now, this has got 4 positions set up in it, so we've actually set them up at 75, 50 inches, and 25 inches. Also, with regards to retakes, people have often asked, well, I want to change this from it needs to retake at sunrise and sunset. You've got the ability to change this in real time now and to actually ensure that the system is performing the way in which that facilities person needs it to perform. With regards to linking zones to sensors, we've got the ability to actually allow the facilities people to look at the individual zones and link them to specific sensors, so you can actually determine which sensor you want to link that particular zone to and how you want it to work. There are also some special conditions where you can look at retract, step, or tandem mode. Tandem mode is basically when you're looking at 2 tiers of shades. You may want them to work in unison with one another. When you do retract step, I'm sure some of you have seen this before, if a shade retracts, it retracts one position at a time. and you can set the amount of time that it's actually going to stay in the position as it is moving up. So this is a very quick overview of SolarTrac. The normal information that was visible on SolarTrac4 is still here. We've got the performance of what is being measured above the building at any given time. So we've got the actual solar radiation. We've got our clear sky threshold, which is our threshold below which the shades will not move, above which we believe it to be a clear day. It will then react. And then you've got your actual theoretical level of solar radiation. And this you can look at for any time of the day. And then to the right, we've actually got our internet weather information, which we're pulling for this particular building at this particular time. One or two little things I just wanted to show you too. We've also got the ability to do alerts and notifications. So it gives you the ability to look at alerts. So we've left an alert on here. By clicking on it, it actually takes you to the motor, and it says that motor has got an error. When did that error occur? It occurred at 6 a.m. this morning. And you can actually have a look at the notifications. I've overridden this shade, so it actually tells me what the override condition is that I've just executed on the system. So this is a very quick overview of what SolarTrac4 is about. I encourage anybody that needs a deeper dive into SolarTrac to contact your local rep, who can contact myself or one of the automation team, and we can actually run more detailed training sessions or more detailed presentation sessions for SolarTrac4, because I'm sure you will join me in agreeing that this is very different to what we've had in the past, and I feel that this is going to be one of the key drivers in promoting automation and enhancing our ability to take this unique product to the market.